The sun in the busy suburb does not just rise, it pushes through the clouds like a man trying to board a Lagos bus at rush hour. But long before the first yellow danfo roared to life, Mama Tolu's tongue was already doing press-ups. If you saw her sitting on her veranda, adjusting her wrapper with the intensity of a soldier, you would think she was in deep intercession. But Mama Tolu was not talking to God. She was rehearsing. She had news, hot, steaming, and peppery like freshly fried akara, and she knew that if she didn't let it out, her internal organs would begin to vibrate. Mama Tolu was not your everyday neighborhood gossip. She was a vessel. People called her CNN or NTA News at 7 behind her back, but even CNN has closing hours. Mama Tolu's mouth was a 24-hour broadcast station. To her, information was a physical burden. If she held a secret for more than 2 hours, her skin would itch, her throat would tighten, and her stomach would start to swell as if she were carrying a child made of whispers. Doctors called it acid reflux, but the neighborhood knew the truth. It was gist reflux. Her addiction first became a public disaster at her workplace. Mama Tolu was a front desk officer at a very reputable bank. She was the first face customers saw. Polished, professional, and smiling. But behind that smile was a recording machine. One Tuesday afternoon, as the air conditioner hummed quietly in the banking hall, Mama Tolu leaned over to a colleague. She didn't just whisper, she hissed the words like a serpent. She told the colleague that the branch manager, a man whose trousers were always starched enough to cut grade, was using the bank's pension fund to buy a 5-bedroom mansion in Lekki for his side chick. But she didn't stop there. By the time the story reached the third person, the side chick was no longer a human being. She was a mermaid from the Atlantic Ocean who demanded a sacrifice of 3 goats every Friday. By Friday afternoon, the bank was a crime scene. Audit teams had arrived, the manager was being led out for questioning, and the staff were secretly rubbing salt on their chairs to ward off mermaid spirits. When the management traced the source of the poison to the front desk, Mama Tolu was fired on the spot. She didn't even look sad as she packed her bags, she just looked relieved to have offloaded the weight of the story. She returned home, but her venom didn't rest. She turned on her own blood. Her younger brother, Emeka, had recently secured a visa to Canada after 5 years of struggle. It was the pride of the family. But Mama Tolu, sitting by the community well, told the neighbors that Emeka didn't get the visa by merit. She claimed he had joined a Nightcrawler cult and had traded his future children for a one-way ticket to Toronto. The rumor spread like wildfire. Emeka was arrested by the local vigilante and interrogated for 3 days. When he was finally released, he didn't even pack his clothes. He left the house in his singlet, screaming, "If I see that woman near me again, blood will flow." Then came her husband, Baba Tolu. He was a quiet man who just wanted to drink his palm wine in peace. But Mama Tolu told the woman selling roasted corn that her husband was a chronic bedwetter and that his manhood had been spiritually stolen by a ghost he met at a funeral. None of it was true. But Mama Tolu, the truth was boring. The lie was the fuel that kept her heart beating. Baba Tolu didn't argue. He simply packed his one suitcase and disappeared into the Lagos night. Mama Tolu was now alone, jobless, husbandless, and feared by all. Her mother, Mama Agba, watched her daughter with terror. Mama Tolu's skin was turning a dull, ashy grey. Her eyes were sunken into her skull. She was starving because her throat would physically close up unless she was narrating someone's downfall. She began to talk to walls, whispering the secret sins of the governor to the lizards on the fence. "This is not ordinary," Mama Agba cried. "My daughter is possessed by the spirit of talkativity." She dragged Mama Tolu to a famous deliverance ground, the mountain of fire and thunder. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of anointing oil and the sweat of 1,000 souls. The pastor, a man with a voice like a broken trumpet, laid his heavy hands on Mama Tolu's head. "Every spirit of gossip, every demon of the tongue, out by fire," he roared. But Mama Tolu didn't fall. She didn't scream, "I am leaving." Instead, she began to manifest. She didn't growl like a lion, she spoke. She started revealing the pastor's own secrets, how he used the church building fund to buy a car for a young girl in the choir. But then she turned to the congregation, pointing at a woman and shouting that her miracle baby was actually fathered by her husband's best friend. The pastor was sweating. "Silence! I command you to be silent." But the more he prayed, the more Mama Tolu spoke. She spoke in different voices, different dialects, Igbo, Yoruba, even a bit of Portuguese, spilling secrets she couldn't possibly know. She was a radio tuned into every dark corner of the city. The pastor practically chased them out of the church, his face red with a shame he couldn't cover. Back home, Mama Tolu collapsed on the parlor floor, gasping for air. Her belly was protruding unnaturally, looking like a woman 6 months pregnant with words. "Mama," she wheezed, "it won't come out. The words, they are biting me from inside. Help me." Mama Agba sat on the floor and began to wail. It wasn't the grief of a grieving mother. It was the cry of a woman whose past had finally caught up with her. She held her daughter's head and began to speak, her voice trembling. "Forgive me, Tolu, forgive me," the old woman sobbed. "When I was young, I was barren for 15 years. Your father's family wanted to throw me into the street. In my desperation, I went to the shrine of the goddess of the 1,000 tongues at the edge of the forbidden forest." Mama Tolu's eyes widened, turning black like coal. "I made a covenant," Mama Agba whispered. "I told the goddess that if she opened my womb, I would give her a daughter who would be her herald. The goddess told me that for your womb to be open, your mouth must never be shut. You were born to carry the echo of the world. I thought it was just a name. I didn't know it meant you would be a spiritual dustbin for every dirty secret in existence." Mama Agba gripped her daughter's hand. "The covenant was that you must speak so that I could have other children. Your 7 brothers and sisters, Emeka, Chichi, all of them, they only exist because you are paying the price with your tongue. You are not gossiping, Tolu. You are an outlet. If you stop talking, the covenant breaks. All your siblings will die and my womb will dry up in the spirit world." The house went silent. Mama Tolu looked at her mother, the woman who had sacrificed her firstborn's sanity and marriage just to have a full house. Suddenly, a sharp pain ripped through Tolu's stomach. A new secret was forming, something dark, heavy, and ancient. She looked at her mother and her voice changed. It sounded like 10 people speaking inside a metal drum. "Mama," Tolu whispered, "I have a new story to tell. Do you want the neighbors to hear what you did to your first husband? The one you married before you met my father? The one you buried under the Iroko tree behind the compound?" Mama Agba's face turned white. She tried to cover Tolu's mouth, but an invisible force slapped her hand. Tolu began to scream the truth at the top of her lungs. Outside, the neighbors gathered. In Nigeria, when a secret is being offloaded like a container at the port, nobody moves until the last crate is down. "Come on, come and hear how the holy Mama Agba used mortar and pestle to finish her first husband," Tolu screamed. Inside the room, the 7 mute siblings rushed in, but as they entered, the covenant reacted. Emeka clutched his chest and fell. Chichi began to gasp for air. One by one, they started collapsing. "Tolu, please," Mama Agba screamed. "Look at your brothers. Talk. Say anything. Lie if you have to. Just keep the words coming." But the goddess was done with appetizers. She wanted the main course of truth. Tolu stood up, her feet barely touching the floor. She turned to the window facing the crowd. "Listen, all of you. You, Babagidi, the money you donated for the borehole, you used it for your second wife's surgery. And you, Sister Mary, your miracle baby was bought from a clinic in the east." The street turned into a battlefield. People started fighting as their hidden shames were dragged into the light. And as Tolu spoke, her siblings began to breathe again. They were alive, but they were watching their sister turn into a monster of truth. The twist of the 8th child. Mama Tolu became a wandering spirit in the flesh. She spent her days walking from Ikorodu to Oshodi, whispering secrets to the wind. She couldn't wear clothes, they burnt her skin. She couldn't enter a house, the roof would vibrate. Years passed. One rainy Friday, Tolu appeared back at her mother's doorstep. Inside, the 7 mute siblings sat like clay dolls. The goddess had taken their voices to give Tolu more airtime. Mama Agba sat in her rocking chair, waiting. "You have come to finish me," she whispered. Tolu's mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open. A golden light began to pour out. "The goddess says the biggest lie is the one you are still holding, Mama. Tell the secret of the 8th child." Mama Agba fell from her chair. "No, please. The secret is this," Tolu heralded. "Mama Agba did not just ask for children. She jealoused the goddess's beauty and stole a piece of the goddess's heart to use as a charm. The 7 children were the interest on that theft, and the 8th child was never me." Tolu's eyes cleared for a second. "I died the day I was born, Mama. I'm just the piece of the goddess's heart you put in a dead baby's body to make it breathe." The shock hit the room like a physical blow. Suddenly, the 7 mute siblings began to dissolve, not into dust, but into words. Thousands of golden glowing words flew out of their bodies and into Mama Tolu. As each sibling vanished, Tolu grew taller, more radiant, and more terrible. You used a god to play house, Mama. The gist has ended. In a final explosion of sound, Tolu revealed every hidden thought Mama Agba ever had. The weight of the truth was so heavy that the house itself crumbled into a pile of red dust. When the neighbors rushed there, they found Mama Agba sitting in the ruins. She was alive, but she was stone deaf. She would never hear another word for the rest of her life. The ultimate punishment for a woman who lived for the gist. As for Mama Tolu, she was gone. Some say she returned to the forest, but Nigerians say if you are ever tempted to tell a lie that will destroy someone's life, you will feel a cold breeze on your ear. You will hear a woman's voice whisper, "Are you sure? Because I'm listening and I don't keep secrets." The era of Mama Tolu had ended, but the gossip of the world had found its permanent home in the wind. And in Nigeria, as we say, the truth doesn't just come out, it burns everything on its way.